Hi everybody, welcome back to English 112. This is for our class for Tuesday, the 16th of November, where I wanted to transition us into our last drama in the drama section, Raisin in the Sun. I also wanted to talk a little bit about our paper number 2, which will be coming up towards the ending of the semester, as well as journal number 2. But first, what I wanted to do was to put some closure onto Midsummer Night's Dream. And I wanted to talk specifically about Puck's final speech, which, as I was indicating last class, is perhaps one of Shakespeare's most famous speeches. And we have the character of Puck. This is in Act 5, Scene 1, line 400 or so. And he says, "If we shadows have offended, think but this, and all is mended, that you have but slumbered here, while these visions did appear. And this weak and idle theme, no more yielding, but a dream. Gentles, do not reprehend. If you pardon, we will mend. And as I am an honest Puck, if we have unearned luck, now to escape the serpent's tongue, we will make amends ere long, else the Puck a liar call. So good night unto you all. Give me your hands if we be friends, and Robin shall restore amends." And actually, some of you indicated that one of the more surprising things that you found about Shakespeare was his ability to integrate poetry into plot. And Shakespeare basically is merging both poetry and drama. It's something that would have happened in Oedipus the King, but we wouldn't have noticed it because we were basically reading a translation. And certainly it's very clear when we're reading this, the iambic pentameter that Shakespeare oftentimes utilizes in his text. And this speech is a wonderful example of how you can go about analyzing poetry, which is going to be our last unit. And when we talk about poetry, we talk about reading it very, very carefully, even more so than what we've been doing with short story and with drama. Word by word, basically piece of punctuation by piece of punctuation, to see what could be important. And when Puck says, "if we shadows," and I love the idea of a shadow because there's so much doubling that goes on in this play. And that's what shadows are, basically a double. And also the shadow is the darker side, and we see light and dark in this play. If we shadows have offended, and again, what he's saying is if we actors, because actors are basically doubling, have offended you in some way or another, and there are lots of different ways people could be offended. There are lots of statements here about politics, for instance, that could have angered someone. The idea of a female perhaps usurping a man's will. Think but this, and all is mended, that you have but slumbered here. In other words, that you should think that this was all a dream, basically. And if you think about it, there really is nothing real about watching a dramatic performance. It's fiction. While these visions did appear, and this weak and idle theme no more yielding, but a dream. Gentles, and this is short for gentlemen and gentle ladies, gentles, do not reprehend. If you pardon, we will mend. So in other words, if the audience is angry or offended in any way, they will make amends. This is Puck, the character, speaking. This is also the actor as Puck speaking. This is also Shakespeare speaking through the actor who's speaking as Puck. So there's multiple levels here. If you pardon, we will mend. And as I am an honest Puck, I always smirk at that line because Puck's not honest, so I don't know how sincere this apology is. If we have unearned luck, not escape the serpent's tongue, and that would be hissing, serpent's tongue. Serpents are also representational of symbols of evil, so basically what Shakespeare is suggesting here is that to not like his play would be bad or evil. We will make amends ere long, else the Puck a liar call. So good night unto you all, and this is basically a way of saying goodbye. Give me your hands, if we be friends. In other words, he's asking for applause. And Robin shall restore amends. And I just love the way, the easy way that Shakespeare is able to use poetry and iambic pentameter and rhyme and still forward plot. But we move on to our last drama, and our last drama is a contemporary piece, certainly in relation to the previous two dramas that we've read, And it's not included in our textbook either. It used to be, and it was omitted in more recent editions, but I'm such a fan of the play, and I suspect that you will be as well, because students oftentimes tell me that that is their favorite of the three plays. I thought it was worth purchasing elsewhere, so I ordered it as an additional text. But as you can see in the notes below, I've also included a web link where you can find the play online if you so wanted to. And what this is going to mean is that after we're done with Raisin in the Sun, we would have put completion to our drama unit. What that means is that you will have a journal due, your second journal, where you're going to be asked to respond to 3 dramas. Basically, Oedipus the King, Midsummer Night's Dream, and Raisin in the Sun. And much like your previous journal, I'm thinking about approximately a page or so for each of the texts, though certainly you can write it as much or as little as you'd like. And obviously you can write a lot more than just a page on these complex dramas. So if you are very interested in one of the dramas, one of the things you can do is devote some time to writing a paper. And your second paper is going to be very similar to your first paper. The only distinction is that you will now be writing about drama rather than short story. So again, it's about 4 to 5 pages, double space, 1-inch margins. And as we continue on, I wanted you to look in the syllabus and other documents folder, because you will see that I have uploaded a handout about paper number 2. And this is what I wanted to talk about very briefly now, because we're at the point in the semester where you can begin thinking about topics for your second paper. And these are also ideas that you can pursue in perhaps a journal. And paper number 2, much like paper number 1, will be a critical paper. In other words, you should not be consulting outside sources. However, if for some reason you do prefer to write a research paper, do approve your topic with me and touch base with me about that. The paper length should be approximately 4 to 5 pages, but again, as long as it needs to be for you to satisfactorily defend your thesis. You can choose any of the topics listed. I try to generate a few topics for each of the 3 plays. Or you can write on your own topic. And if you choose to write on your own topic, please approve the topic with me before you begin to do any serious composing. And it's always a good idea to touch base with me as you are working on your paper. Of course, the syllabus talks about paper formatting specifications. And a few topics that I generated for something like Oedipus the King examine the importance of family in Oedipus the King. We talked about how ultimately Oedipus is trying to think of the community's welfare, which would be his larger family, while Jocasta is more concerned with the nuclear family. And a good leader should be thinking about the community, not necessarily their own self-interest. Number 2, analyze the images of vision and blindness in Sophocles' Oedipus the King, and how do these images relate to the theme. And there's lots of references to being able to see or being blind, see being representational of the idea of insight, and blindness being basically unaware of the truth, oftentimes through deliberate denial. Discuss, and this moves us on to Midsummer Night's Dream, the role of Puck in Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. Now, I could have selected any character here, and that would have worked very nicely, but Puck is oftentimes an audience favorite because he's so mischievous, and he helps to create much of the conflict and action that occurs in the play. Or examine the theme of love in Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. And of course, that also couldn't apply to just about every text that we've read this semester in one way or another, but we know that Shakespearean comedies are devoted to the conflicts associated with love, and that ultimately we get a happy resolution. And then lastly, the last play that we're heading into, Raisin in the Sun, and these are the 2 that I selected, but again, you can come up with your own topics. Discuss the significance of the title in Hansberry's A Raisin in the Sun. And we've discussed that titles are important, and certainly Oedipus the King, it's pretty obvious because it's named after the central character. And we talked a little bit about the possible significance of Midsummer, that a pagan holiday that celebrates fertility, the idea of night or descent and the possibility of sexual union, and the idea of dreaming, that love is something that is insubstantial and temporary, much like a dream. Or when you think about A Raisin in the Sun, we have a much more complex title that is based actually on a poem that we will be discussing when we talk about the play itself, by Langston Hughes, entitled Harlem, and it's about a dream deferred. Or 6, compare and contrast Walter and Beneatha and Hansberry's A Raisin in the Sun. Again, you could compare and contrast any characters, but these two characters happen to be brother and sister. So if you have a sibling, you know that it's a very interesting dynamic, that particular relationship. So I thought that could be something that you could examine with A Raisin in the Sun. And much like we began with all of the other dramas, what I wanted to do was to talk a little bit about the drama and then allow you to watch performance, and then we could get into some of the specifics of the drama. I can also give you a couple of hints as to how to read and watch this drama. Names are incredibly important, so pay attention to all of the names of the characters. Light versus dark is going to be a theme out of many themes that will be illustrated in this play. As I had referenced earlier, the play's title and the theme of the play is based on a Langston Hughes poem about what happens to a dream deferred. And the play is very much about dreams and what happens when dreams are deferred. Hansberry, the author, wrote this play when she was 29 years old, and she was the youngest American, the fifth woman, and the first Black playwright to win the Best Play of the Year award from the New York Drama Critics. So she was a rising star, and this became an instant classic because it doesn't just talk about issues of race, and it doesn't just talk about issues in relation to gender. It talks about dreams, and that's something that probably is universal. And unfortunately, Hansberry died young at 34 of cancer. I suspect she would have had a long and prolific career if she had lived. Now, one of the central elements of this story is the tension that occurs over how the family is going to be spending an insurance check of $10,000. Now, understand that this play was written in 1959, so I just looked up what that would be worth in 2021 in our time. And $10,000 would be worth $95,000 or $95,048. So this gives you an idea of the sum of money that we are talking about. And even still, $10,000 in our own time is a sizable amount of money, but certainly $95,000 is a much more sizable amount of money. So, in terms of viewing Raisin in the Sun, there are lots of different versions that are available of this play. The definitive version is a version that was done in 1961 with Sidney Poitier. And one of the reasons why it's considered definitive is because Lorraine Hansberry herself actually worked on this particular film performance. So, this basically reflects her vision on film of what her vision would have been of her stage play, which is how it was performed first. And in fact, many of the film actors were the same actors who performed these roles on stage. It hasn't been particularly easy to find a link where we could view this for free. I did find one, and it's on Facebook of all places. And you can see in the notes below in the third section that I have that listed there. If for whatever reason you can't access this link through Facebook, or you don't want to use Facebook, you can certainly view any version that you can find on the internet, and there are quite a few of them. But again, the best of the best, the cream of the crop, the pièce de résistance, is considered to be this 1961 version with Sidney Poitier. So I thought we could watch half of it today. I'm going to suggest that if you're watching the Sidney Poitier version, that you view it up until 1 hour and 6 minutes and 20 seconds. That'll put you about halfway through the play. And then we can finish the play on Thursday, talk about the play on Tuesday of next week, and of course Thursday of next week is Thanksgiving, so we wouldn't be meeting. Now, our attendance question, which will be due on our class discussion form, that will be by the 17th of November, which is a Wednesday, 10 a.m., is thus far, based on your reading and your viewing of the play, which is your favorite character in A Raisin in the Sun and why? Thus far, which is your favorite character in A Raisin in the Sun and why? I hope you're doing well, I'm doing well, and enjoy A Raisin in the Sun. Take care. Bye-bye.